So today on Finishing Well, we've got savings and income. And it's interesting to me, Hans, that the Bible, according to Crown Financial Services, mentions either money or possessions 2,300 times, over 2,300 times. So obviously, the Bible's got a lot of wisdom here. And one of those pieces of wisdom is that who would begin to build a house or a tower, as it says in Luke 14, who would begin to do that without first counting the cost. And retirement's kind of like that. You got a long way to go. That's depending on your, what happens in your life. And you got quite a story along those lines to a family that didn't get all the counsel they could have used.
Well, sure I do. And, in my book, which we're going through in this whole series, The Complete Cardinal Guide to Planning for and Living in Retirement, we tell stories in the first book about clients that were in real situations. And the one that's up today is Ross and Fiona. They're in the 6th chapter of the book. And Ross, very nice gentleman. I met him at doing a financial seminar at his church, and he contacted me after that and thought I had perhaps some good things to say, and looked like we were in sync. And so we sit down and look at his whole situation, and he was really distraught when he gets it out there that he shows me that in 2008, he had over $400,000 in his 401k, and he decided at the low point of the market sell-off, while he's still working, to convert all to cash. So he moved it all into the guaranteed interest fund or whatever, and it was about $250,000. And then he proceeded to pull out about $25,000 of it after he retired, but before he met me. And so when we finally sit down together, he's got $225,000 left. He's a 64-year-old man. His wife is the same age. She's still working. And besides his Social Security and a small pension that he had, we got to figure out a way to make this $225,000 last in supplementary income for the rest of his life. And that's, those are the kind of cases that I really, I earn my money.
Because it's a sad situation when people, make those kind of decisions in the middle of a market thinking, wow, this is the time to do it. But you have some wisdom along those lines to help people that in such a time as this, right?
Well, I do. I mean, if we put it into, because it's always easy to look historically and say, he should have done this, he could have done this. And what people do to wide swings in the market, which are going on quite frequently these days, they overreact. They react emotionally. And this was an example of an extreme emotion. He just moved. He could have moved some of it out. He could have done a lot of things differently than he did. And it calls for having somebody that advises you on this kind of stuff. And with a 401k, that's a little hard because you get it through your employer. You really don't have somebody like me. But actually, if you're working with somebody for your other investments or you're working with me, I give this counsel to my clients all along. I mean, that's one of the first things we do is we get out their 401k and look at it. The point I want to make is making emotional decisions based upon swings or moves in the market is never good, okay? And the smart money or the big money or the investors, the people that are making money, they buy low and they sell high. So like when we had this thing going on a couple of weeks ago, the news people were out to interview me and what should investors do, and my advice was they need to just hang tight. They need to consult their financial plan. I'm not going to give advice to everybody blanket over the TV, but really just chill out a little bit here. I mean, this is a big drop. I know it's concerning. You lost a bunch of money, but right now could be the worst time to just be selling your stocks. And the other thing, there's a lot of people selling them. That's what caused it to go down. There's also, for every person selling, there's somebody buying, and that's the smart money. They're saying stocks are on sale. So just what I want people to get out of this is that if you get into the stock market, you're invested in the stock market, stay in it and be prepared to stay in it for the long haul.
Right. And Hans, you're a certified financial planner. And I would suppose that as you begin to go through those years of experience to get that certification, these are the kinds of times that require, when the risk goes up like that, when you start to see things fluctuate a lot, that's the time when counsel would seem like the time you would really need it.
Well, it is, and it's made extra hard when you haven't gotten any counsel all along. You've just been kind of playing the market, and that brings one of the first points that I make in my book is as you get closer to retirement, you need to really think about, man, I got to live out of this money for the rest of my life. I'm also not going to be making additional contributions after I retire. All I'm going to be doing is pulling out.
So, to an extent, you're not in your previous occupation. You retired from that. So the income situation is changing from an income from that job, so to speak, where you're now getting income from your investments.
Well, from Social Security and from your savings, your personal savings, whatever that might be, any retirement plan, if you're lucky enough to still have a retirement check, and then from your IRA or from your personal savings that you've done, from your 401k, now you've got a balance there. And the moral of this is what I want you to get is it's no longer how much can I make on this? Can I get it to increase? Can I get it to increase more? It's now how much do I have? How much can I withdraw, or how much can I live on without running out of money before I die? That's the problem that I'm solving for people with their money.
So actually you're trying to build that house, and figuring the cost of what it's going to be over a period of time, not just from a standpoint of housing and clothing and those kind of things, but also long-term care and other things like that fit into the equation.
Sure. I mean, and so my rule of thumb with this is that if you, like in Ross's situation, he had $225,000 left. He had no business, and he didn't get back into the stock market with none of it, okay? Because he just couldn't afford the risk. I mean, he just, what if he got back in, in 2014, 15, and then 2008 happened all over again? Now he's down to 140,000 or 120,000. He just couldn't do it. He agreed. So when you're dealing with a base level of need, where you've got this hunk of money, you've been counting on living on it for the rest of your life, we can't be taking risks with your grocery money. I mean, we just can't, and your medical bill money and your Christmas giving money and your gas and your rent or your house payment. So when you look at investing in retirement, the first thing you need to look at is we've got to have, how much do you need every month? And how much will you need every month for the rest of your life? And we need to come up with a base level of what that is. And we need to have no risk in that number. I mean, we need to be able to look at the hunk of money and be able to produce that amount of money. Now, it might come from just shifting some of it off and saying, okay, so we're going to create this yearly income or monthly income. We're going to project out where it's going to last as long as you do. And then we might have some money left over. We might look at investing that, okay? What my point is that a lot of these people come up to retirement, they got the whole thing invested. They're just sitting there right now. Maybe they're a couple years away from retirement. Maybe they just retired. Maybe they retired a year ago and they were just looking forward to, now when I'm retired, I'll really have time to watch this stuff. And they've been on there playing with it and doing that. And then all of a sudden, February 2018 hits and whammo. And then it kind of goes back up and then whammo again. So I really just want to have a wake-up call. I'm not intended to scare anybody, but you need to take this real seriously at 60, 62, 64, 66, or if you're in your 70s and you still have a lot of your money at risk, maybe it's a good time to count your blessings and come in and shift part of this into a lower risk situation.
You're listening, if you're wondering, and you just tuned in, I've not heard this show before on Saturday mornings. You're listening to Finishing Well with certified financial planner Hans Scheil, and it's brought to you by cardinalguide.com. And so, as always, we want to remind you that cardinalguide.com has phenomenal resources, all the things we're talking about today, as well as you can get actually this chapter on savings and investment and retirement on the, if you look under the 7 worries tab right there, go to the savings and retirement, and you can download this very chapter, all the resources on the workbook, right?
From the workbook and the original guide. There's 2 PDF downloads. You can put my whole book together and not pay a dime. And I'm happy if you do that. You can construct the whole thing through PDF downloads.
Or you could just order it there for $2 and something. You can get the whole book right there, or the ebook anyway.
Yeah, we'd love you to do that, or buy the paper book on Amazon. But that's not the point. What I want to do on this show, and I really wrote the book to help guide and educate people. That's why I'm doing this. And if you can just, if I've interested you in one thing, and that's savings and investing, just what I've had to say, perhaps you can download this PDF and you can just read it, and that might interest you in the whole book. You might get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next question you bring up in your book, which is, again, the complete Cardinal Guide to Planning for and Living in Retirement, is as you age, income, this is what it says, as you age, income becomes more important than account balances?
Absolutely. And what I mean by that is, if you've had a 401k, you've had a nice balance, you've enjoyed a couple of bull markets here, really the most recent long one that's gone on, and it's not necessarily over yet with a couple of hiccups, you've been able to just chase returns, and that's, you've been able to watch that thing go up, 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 and you can look back on when it went down. What I'm suggesting is the amount of income that you can earn from that without risk is more important to you now, or can be more important to you now in retirement, than the amount of increase that you can get in it and the charge you get from that.
Wow. And yeah, and now you can see, whoa, that's over my head right there. I would need a certified financial planner in order to try to figure that one out. And good luck. You're listening to Hans Scheil, certified financial planner. And again, cardinalguide.com. We got to go to a break. When we come back, more of this savings and income study of how do you finish well that way.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
So, we will finish that segment, and let me save that one right.
Yeah. So we were under 13 minutes, right?
Well, the intro is in there and all that stuff, so that's actually probably easier for him. But either way, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, and I think what I want to do in the second section, well, first of all, I want to go back to what you opened with, because we didn't spend enough time on that, where the 2,300 places that it's mentioned in the Bible, where God is really giving us direction with our money. He's telling us how to think about it, how to be about it, how to spend it, how to save it. And perhaps you could, talk about that again, or just, I don't know if we made enough emphasis on that. I kind of jumped into my thing. I mean, only if you think that. And then I really want to get into just a little bit of what I mean by managing risk, okay? When I talk about managing risk.
Go back up for a minute, because I was trying to focus on not losing that.
Well, I think that I made that point.
Don't scoot away from me, because you'll be out of this.
In the Bible, what we were talking about this morning is money is mentioned so many times in the Bible that there's guidance in there, and there's specific guidance about how we're to spend our money, how we're to save our money, how we're to gift our money and inherit it. It's just throughout there, so that money is a focus of the Bible and in Scripture. So what I really wanted to address with that is a lot of people say, well, I don't want to be about money because it's not in the ways of God. Yeah, it's the root of all evil. And so that will allow people that are faithful sometimes to just, shy away from it.
Right. Rather than
than try to gain the wisdom. And so I'm not trying to say that my wisdom that I'm putting on you is there. I mean, yeah. So you can run with that.
I can run with it. Very much so. Well, welcome back to Finishing Well with certified financial planner Hans Scheil. And again, it's brought to you by CardinalGuide.com. And we were talking this week about finishing well in savings and income. And as we opened up, the Bible has a whole lot to say. In fact, over 2,300 times, according to Crown Financial, there's conversation in the Bible about either money or possessions. And so, Hans, when it comes to this subject, some people go, well, money, it's the root of all evil. They forget out that part where it says the love of money is the root of all evil. But they just go, money is the root of all evil. And away they go. I don't really want to talk about that.
We need money to tithe to our church. We need money to buy groceries. We need money to fund our Christian car guy cars. We need money for a lot of good things as well. And we need money to live, especially in modern society. So my job here is just to bring to you the wisdom that I feel you need.
Well, you've got all the experience and you've had the training, and we've talked in previous weeks about the different seminars you go to every year and all those things. But the thing that I can't miss that's in the Bible is, you remember there's the wise steward. There's that whole story, but there's also the story about the talents, that the one got a few and the one went and dug it in the ground, But that speaks to a real issue in my own life. I'll be the first to admit it. I have more of a problem of worrying about money than I do about how to use money or have faith that this money is going to, do what God wants it to do. So as you begin to get afraid, fear is obviously a lack of faith, and we're going in the weeds before we even get going. And so how cool is it to have a brother that can actually, lift you up in that area?
Well, yeah, and we're speaking to people specifically that are either right at retirement, somewhere in your 60s, after retirement, so maybe you didn't do these things back right when you were retiring, or people leading up to retirement and people planning for retirement. And their needs and their situation and their decisions are different than somebody 30 years old. Now, I think somebody 30 years old can greatly benefit from this show, because if you're saving money and investing it, well, you're investing it for your retirement. So you're looking to the future. So you could still get a lot out of this, but I'm speaking specifically to us people that aren't going to be able to make as much money. When I'm 70, which will be 11 years from now, I'm not going to be able to produce as much income as I can now at 59. I may not be producing any income. Likewise, you're 62, Robby, is that right?
Yeah.
And when you're 72, I'm hoping you're still working. My point is you're going to be living off of your savings and your retirement savings at some point.
And that's a good time to bring up that subject. And the reason this show is titled Finishing Well rather than Retirement or something along those lines is that we want to be clear that retirement from, your gig that you had all these years versus that doesn't mean that you're finished with life. That doesn't mean that you're not going to continue into some ministry or some other thing that God's called you to. Miss Beck, as I talk about, used to work with at the retirement home. She was working hard at 100 for the kingdom, trying to push that forward. And one time I asked her, I said, Miss Beck, how is it that you, and she took me to some passage in Ecclesiastes and said, once you're subscribing in the war, you're not out till the war's over. And so we definitely believe that. But, a lot of us worked a lot of years to create this retirement. And so this retirement, we're talking about from what was the occupation that you used to, to fund the situation. But now you're in a great time to, carry on for the kingdom at those years, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s, depending on how you go.
Well, another way to put that, if you're working now and you're drawing a paycheck, think about how hard of a time that you have making that paycheck stretch to all your expenses. Imagine how it's going to be when you're maybe working for free, or you're working part-time, or you're not working at all, and you're not drawing that paycheck. you're still going to have to make ends meet. So when we get back to what the title of the show is, which is really, you've got some retirement savings, and we want to talk about how you should invest that, what you should put it in, and specifically we want to look at how much income do you need to get from it, spendable income. And then if you take this income, is that going to last you? Because a lot of people are living into their 80s, 90s, and beyond. It's got to last a long time. So that's the real problem that I'm trying to solve for people, for customers, clients that come in to see me, is how are we going to make their retirement savings produce an income that's suitable to them, that's going to last the rest of their life?
Yeah, that's especially, and that's such a moving target, obviously, for some folks. But also there's an aspect to it when I think of what the Bible teaches about money, that we're to leave an inheritance for our family, not obviously just a spiritual inheritance, because all those people in Israel left lands and things like that to their children, and that's a part of what we're doing too, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Yes, you've got to certainly create a lasting legacy for your church, for your ministry, for all that stuff, but to your kids, a lot of us feel, and I know I do, that's part of what my estate planning is.
Well, sure it is. And then before you're going to do that, you need to plan for long-term care, possibly. May or may not happen to you, or it may happen for a short period of time. But that's worse than not leaving an inheritance. Now you're leaving kind of a negative inheritance where your kids are going to have to decide between spending what was their inheritance on your care or taking care of you themselves. So there's a whole lot of factors involved in this. So if we get back to investing, what I want to really talk about is a debate that's going on that most of you probably don't even know. So the investment people, which I'm one of, a lot of them are always, talking like annuities, putting money with an insurance company, they're bad. And they'll talk about all the bad points of annuities.
So an annuity means that it's a type of investment that is with insurance companies?
That's
Shows
correct.
how much I know.
No, that's correct. It's where you take a lump of money, put it with an insurance company, possibly leave it there for several years untouched. They provide you a guaranteed income into the future. Or an immediate annuity is something that can create an income for life. It's an investment product. Or it's really not an investment product. It's an insurance policy that you pay to the insurance company, and then the insurance company guarantees you a check for life. So there's all kinds of different kinds of annuities. So, and the purpose of this show is really not to teach you what all those are. I'm just saying as a whole, if you're managing money, you're investing, you're a person like me giving advice, a lot of these folks fall in one camp or the other. They're either investment people and they just say annuities are bad, and they point out all the bad points of annuities, all the downsides. Then you go over to the annuity people, who are generally insurance agents or financial advisors that mostly sell insurance. They're going to tell you investments are bad, okay? And they're going to say this is why. And they're going to go over the bad points of investment. And it's kind of this all or nothing debate that most people, like, you didn't even know what an annuity was, so you certainly don't know about the debate.
Yeah, I don't.
But many of our listeners do. So they've researched things and they've read on there annuities are bad. They've read, so the debate's kind of out there. My point is neither one of them is bad and neither one of them is good. Generally, when you've got a finite amount of money and you've got a fixed amount of money that you need to provide an income for life, what we're going to do for most clients is allocate a portion of it to investments and creating an income from that, and we're going to allocate another portion of it to an annuity that's going to give us a guaranteed income that we can't run out of.
Well, just for other ignorant souls like myself who have never really thought about what an annuity is. So if you, in a general rule, if you invest money into an annuity, is that a no-risk situation? Or is there risk
Well, there's
involved?
nothing that's no risk. I mean,
Not
so
even the
you're
bank.
not going to pin down. I mean, there's nothing that's no risk.
Or less risk.
But
than other things.
it's very, very low risk. And actually, in my book, I have a chart on all of this where I show, what's the lower risk and what's the higher risk. But for the purposes of this discussion, the annuity is right there with the CD down at the bank in terms of risk. I mean, it's just what you see in black and white is what you're going to get. So it's backed up. It's actually become where many people are buying annuities now, where they used to buy bonds or put money in CDs, and they've shied away from those because the interest rates are so low. I don't know if you've looked at the bank lately.
They're not there.
I mean,
They're not very high, but that's a fascinating thing. So there is, right along your strategy, there's a way to provide income through these annuity investments.
Well, sure. And when I spoke of Ross and Fiona earlier, what we did for them is we took the $225,000, we put $75,000 in a very safe investments. That's really to the conservative side, where it still has some risk and it's very liquid. And then we put $150,000 in an annuity. And that annuity we're planning to not touch for 7 or 8 years. And we've got a guaranteed income that can start, that we know right now we're going to get this much a month as long as either Ross or Fiona, as long as either one of them's alive for the rest of their life. So all we got to worry about now is what are they going to live off of from now till 7 years? I can't remember if it was 7 or 8 years, but it's a point in the future. That's what we have the $75,000 for. We can take a little bit of risk. I mean, this wasn't his whole income. This is just so we were able to take $75,000, invest it. He's pulling out so much money every month for 7 years, and the earnings, and that thing's going to be at zero in 7 years. Just the time that runs into zero, the annuity kicks in, and that's had the benefit where the insurance company was able to guarantee a thing knowing they'd have it for 7 years.
So continue to indulge this ignorant soul. So you said you took $150,000 and you put it in this annuity.
Right.
And you were hoping to leave it there for 7 or 8 years. At the end of that 7 or 8 years, he still has $150,000?
No, he has more than $150,000. He's going to have $150 plus the growth that was in there.
Oh, so they get an income and growth? Shows how much I know.
Well, you call it an income, but an income to me is when they actually give you a check.
Right,
when you
that's
take
what I'm
money
talking about.
out of it. So he's just had internal growth in that annuity. So that 150 for the purposes is going to grow to like 180.
So, okay, and again, I apologize for being so ignorant, but I'm hoping that other listeners are going, oh, I didn't know that either. So he's getting a check every month from this annuity, it sounds like.
Correct.
And he's going to get more than 150 at
No,
the end?
he's not getting a check for 7 years.
Okay. That now, all right. That's
so
why
we're living off the $75,000 that we had invested, and then we took the 150. It's like putting it in the mattress.
Okay.
Okay.
And when you get done with that, the income that you're talking about is the growth that's inside that annuity.
Correct. And then at that point is when we turn on an income, 7 or 8 years into the future, where he's going to then get a check guaranteed from that money for the rest of his life.
It's still going to sit in the annuity.
It's still going to sit in the annuity, but now he's going to get a check guaranteed by the insurance company for the rest of his life.
And that 150 is now at 180. What happens at the end of his life?
The end of his life, well, if there's anything left, it'll go to his beneficiaries. But it was covering both he and his wife, because if he dies, she still needs the check coming in. So this was a joint deal.
I hate to be so ignorant, but okay, let's say that he lives to 100. Is it there at some point that money runs out?
Yeah, the money could run out, but he's still going to get a check after it's zero. Because that's
really?
guaranteed by the insurance company, yeah.
Well, see, now I'm learning. That's why.
Yeah,
So your annuity, you now is 180,000, and he is, say, 72 or 3 when he starts taking the check. And if he does live to 120, I mean, ka-ching.
Or just one of them does. Yeah, well, you could say ka-ching, but he's going to be needing that check.
I understand.
He could die as long as she's there. So just to simplify this whole thing, we took $225,000, put $75,000 in a liquid account, living off it, and then we deferred taking anything out of the 150.
Well, as you can see, we have got lots to learn here on the Finishing Well show. Is we've got to get to a break that was supposed to happen about 1:13. So, Johnny, we're going to have to figure out how to edit this. But today's show has been on saving and, God, now my mind's just totally blown.
And income.
Income and, okay.
Which is really the only thing that matters to you in
edit this
retirement.
in a minute. So, today's show, savings and income, here on Finishing Well with certified financial planner Hans Scheil. Again, it's the brought to you by CardinalGuide.com, and you can go to CardinalGuide.com for all these resources to actually see if you like another topic or you want to talk more about annuities. Just go tell Hans there at CardinalGuide.com. Hans, thank you so much for being on with us today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to do some editing so that he doesn't have it so bad.